Oh my God. Wow.
He sent me
Wow.
3 videos in a row of her just sleeping.
Oh man, that's a good dad. That's a
He's
good
so
dad.
happy. He's so happy.
Here she is.
Oh, yay!
Say hello. If you guys want to know how long you've been in quarantine, just look at my. Want to say hi? She
Oh
doesn't
So
see a lot of
crazy.
screen.
So she's so precious.
What a cutie.
Oh,
Yeah, this is Frankie.
oh,
Thanks,
Frankie,
Nels.
hi. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, thank you guys so much for hopping on this call. I know this was a quick call, because we've got school starting up pretty soon. I would like to make this a regular thing if it works for everyone. A lot of us work with each other already. We share resources. We share youth. Sometimes we share adults. And so I wanted to make sure that we know what all of us are doing in this crisis, and what shared resources we all can have. I would like to make things as as seamless as possible, but it's going to be impossible to do such. And so we've got some questions that we want you guys to kind of think about, and kind of treat this like a brainstorming session. We'll be taking notes about everything that comes up here, and then the following week, if we do this on a recurring basis, we'll go back to those notes and hopefully develop some best practices. That's the goal here. Hopefully that works for everyone. If it does, could you use your reactions and throw the thumbs up? Nice, nice. Oh, many thumbs, many thumbs. Okay, awesome.
Can't
All
figure
right.
out the thumb.
Can't figure out the thumb.
How have I not used this yet?
Oh man.
All right, later on, I'll keep working on it.
All right, cool. The thumb is essential. The thumb is essential. All right, I'm going to do a couple of things and kind of lay out some ground rules here, as we are all either Zoom officials at this point or still working on it. Please keep your mics muted until you have something to say. If you do have something while someone else is speaking, you want to just throw it in the chat box. I'll be moderating that along with Miss Emma. Thank you for joining us today too. And in order to not disrupt you guys while you're talking, I've got this dry erase board. So I'll be putting reactions and comments and things up on the dry erase board so that you guys don't skip a beat while you're in the middle of your thoughts as well. Did everybody get the agenda and the PowerPoint that I sent off? Excellent. I am going to share the screen right now. Let's go to present here. Boom, boom. All right, I'm going to share the screen here, and we're gonna stick loosely to this schedule. I know we had planned for an hour and a half. If it goes all the way there, that'd be fantastic. If not, we can continue the conversation. But let me see here. Let's share this. Splash. There we go. All right, here we are. Remote learning and art-based organizations, Denver Partners Zoom call. Here's our agenda for today. We're gonna do a quick 10-minute brief introduction. I know that some of you guys know each other, some of you guys do not. There's a great mix of arts organizations, teachers, and museums in this call right now, so thank you to everybody that's on the call. We want to keep it brief, 60-second pitch about your organization, things I want you guys to consider, where you're located, who do you serve, describe some notable projects that you oversee. And then we'll go to our 30-minute kind of jump in session. Each organization will get an opportunity to discuss how COVID and social justice movements have affected their organizations and schools, things to consider. When did you close down? Have you reopened? If so, or if not, how are you planning to? Have your outcomes changed based on the remote experiences and social distancing? How has funding been affected? That's a huge question as well. And feel free to share as much or as little as you want, based on your own knowledge, and also revealing things about your organization as well. How have your outcomes changed based on the remote experiences and social distancing? How have you been affected? So on and so forth. The next 30 minutes after that, we'll go into some breakout sessions if that seems like it would work better for organizations that are kind of similar to each other. If not, we can just keep the group together and do some brainstorming. I've got 1,000 questions to ask all of you guys. Feel free to take some notes and write questions as things come up in the moment as well. I'd love to address these and put them all together in a big document for us at the end. And then the last 20 minutes or so, we'll discuss some actionables. What can we actually do as arts organizations to be able to support each other? There's some simple questions. I have a really big question at the end that I want to ask, and that's what software and apps what's everybody using? You know, we'd love to make things as uniform as possible. You know, if we've got a student that's, you know, a platform and using something like School Deets to get their work done, but then, you know, that student then comes over to us and does some kind of project, we want to make sure that whatever app that we're using is the easiest transition. Okay, does that make sense, everybody? Cool. All right. Well, I'd love to kind of just go round robin. I think I'll start. I think it's the easiest, and then I'll just kind of, you know what? Yeah, I think you know, we can do, you can pick a person after you're done, just kind of scroll through your, you know, the panel, the grid, and pick the next person to go after that. How about that? All right. So I'm JC Futrell. I'm the Director of Education at Redline Contemporary Arts Center. We serve a wide variety of youth through our programs. Our programs are focused on meeting the needs of those that have been disenfranchised and marginalized. So we have several programs, including those that are in Denver schools, like our ArtCore mentorship program that's at both Bruce Randolph and Whittier. We made the expansion last year for those of you guys that know or may not know. We serve youth on a one-on-one basis with partnering them with an artist. Miss Emma can explain a little bit more about that a little bit later, but they work with them for an entire year and then have an art exhibition at our space. So you can obviously think about, you know, the kind of problems that we might have arising with not being able to have a live exhibition. We also have our Epic Arts program as well, and we have some of our Epic Arts partners in this call right now. Epic Arts kind of falls along the same line of ArtCore mentorship, except for we pair an artist in a classroom for a semester, and then they have an art exhibition at our space based on a socially engaged art project. And usually those projects are focused on social justice. Okay. We have several other programs as well. That's just the ed team. Our building serves a multitude of purposes, but we are a social justice arts center with artist residencies as well. And that's about my time. I think I will pass it off now to Miss Amy Banker.
Does that count towards my time if I'm like taking?
No, no, it does not.
Okay, good. You have to time me. You know that, JC.
I got the timer here.
So I'm Amy Banker, and I'm the program director for the Youth Employment Academy. And one of our main programs is Art Street at YEA. We serve youth ages 14 to 21, some up to 24 as we follow through. We work in 3 areas: career, industry, academies, combined in school and out of school. We do internships, and we have a mentorship program. What was my other questions here? So some of the other projects that we have under YEA, we also have a great culinary program and a social enterprise cafe. I'm going to actually stop there. Our mission is to serve youth in breaking the cycle of generational poverty and through education and employment. And arts is just one of our vehicles to get there. And we do, our main goals are to get youth to stay in school, graduate, go on to post-secondary training or employment, whichever they are most interested in, and also working with them holistically through all the wraparound services that we can provide. And we are affiliated with the Denver Housing Authority, as well as Colorado High School Charter. Hey, Rigo. So I'm gonna actually pass it to Chelsea right now, because then she can just go right into Art Street.
Yes, we can tag team this one. So I'm the program director specifically for the Art Street program under YEA. And so basically we focus on creative industry training. So we use real world client projects to teach high school age students how to be part of the creative industries. So whether it's a graphic design program or a mural project or an art installation, we give them an opportunity to be part of that project and then learn art skills that way. We also teach for Colorado High School Charter, and then we offer after school open studio and mentorship, which allows students to kind of get their foot in the door, be engaged with art projects, and then move on to more complicated client projects as we see what they can do. And then we also offer internships through DPS Career Connect. We do a big summer program. And all of it's through the lens of creative industries and creative training. And then I'll pass it to Rigo, because then we got this nice little chain going here.
Thank you. My name is Rigo. I work at Colorado High School Charter, and there I am the concurrent enrollment counselor. Colorado High School Charter, we are located in the La Alma neighborhood. Basically 13th and Osage, I would say, is the closest big intersection. We are a Title I school, so the students that we serve come from, from low-income communities, underserved communities, and we are, I would say, a very diverse school. We are about 2/3 Latino students, about 1/3 African-American students, and then, for the small percentage that's left, we have a lot of biracial kids, students who are Native American, and so we have a nice eclectic group in our building. As a concurrent enrollment counselor, I oversee basically the post-secondary and community organization partnerships to provide our students with access to community resources as well as post-secondary resources so that they can start their career exploration, whether that's by way of learning a trade, learning more about a specific field like arts through Art Street, or starting their post-secondary education by taking college or vocational classes. So yeah, that's our program. So Kristen, I'll call on you.
Yeah, hi everybody. I am Kristen DeChico. I am going into my 5th year teaching high school art at Academy of Urban Learning. It's a small charter school located on 29th and Zuni, directly down the street from North High School. We are a completely trauma-informed school, so we made that shift. I would say that's the most notable thing about our school. We made that shift about 3 years ago. We're seeing tremendous results. I see a lot of the questions I want to go into later, but, we serve almost 100% Hispanic kids, and also some of the more notable projects and programs we've been a part of is Redline, the EPICS program. So last year, I think that was our, JC, you're gonna have to remind me, my brain's foggy, 4th year? The 3rd year, okay, yes, 3rd year doing EPIC. I love Redline. It's a program that, EPIC in particular, is a program that I feel really strongly about for our students. Yeah, so that's me. Nice to meet you guys.
You got to pick somebody.
So sorry, Emma, I'll pick you.
Hi guys, I'm Emma. I'm the education coordinator here at Redline. So basically just echoing everything that JC said. In particular, I manage our Art Core mentoring program at Whittier and Bruce Randolph, and that's with 5th through 8th grade students. And we primarily work with the social worker and their restorative justice officers to kind of recruit and pick those students that we work with. So yeah, we can talk about that a little bit later. And I will pick Emily.
Hi, everyone. I am Emily Claypool. I teach at McMean Elementary, which is located in Southeast Denver. We're a Title I school, wonderfully diverse, and we closed down in March. I've been checking in with families in virtual home visits, and I'd say they are overwhelmed right now. I think some of the gaps include a space where they could work effectively, supplies, and then also being left alone. I also get often like they weren't really aware that I was even teaching art in the spring. I think that specials get heavily backburnered, which I understand as a parent too, how that can happen. You're just trying to like survive. But I really want to try to use the arts, especially in this time of crisis with COVID and the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm really regrounding in my values of social justice and community and trying to make that the forefront of my curriculum. Time. All right.
Yeah, sorry about that. And I really want to revisit, you just said something that shocked me, that they weren't even aware that you were going to be teaching. I am shocked right now about that. And those are the kind of things that I want to talk about today. Thank you.
All right. I hand off to Jen.
Thanks, Emily. I'm Jen Olson. I'm with Think 360 Arts for Learning. So we are located normally when we're open in Uptown in the Thomas Bean building, which is right next to Cleo Parker. And we serve mostly youth through in-school and after-school programming through the Artists in Schools program. So we have a roster of teaching artists who go in and collaborate with teachers, but also, you know, in community settings with libraries, in older adult settings through our creative aging program, in restorative justice settings through the DA art program. So we really customize it, whatever it is, whether it's a performance or a long-term residency, we customize it to whatever the needs and interests are of the youth and of and what the teacher wants to focus on. So we are a statewide agency. So we work, even though we're located in Denver, we work all over the state through a relationship that we have with CCI and the creative districts. And another big thing that we do is professional development for teachers. And that's where a lot of our social justice and wellness work has been during the pandemic, working with teachers through online professional development. I'm also a DPS parent. So, okay, sorry, I see the time thing now. I will pick someone else. Let's see, who hasn't gone yet? Lindsay, have you gone? No, okay. All right.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lindsay Housel. I work at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and I work with Trelor, who's also on the call today, so I'll throw it to her next. I am an experienced developer, and I am currently working on things that we offer to our adult audience, including parents and families. And I'll have Trelor talk a little bit more about what we're doing for schools. But we are working with kind of all segments of our audience. We're currently reopened at a much reduced capacity and have implemented quite a few measures, you know, to reinforce social distancing and making the experience still meaningful for our guests, whether we are on-site or off-site. And so we've really amped up our digital offerings, virtual and digital, in addition to doing some of the same things that we were doing before, like our Virtual Science Academy and some of the other programs that we had online. But we are really here to also learn from all of you, and we are looking at the same kinds of things, like how do we collaborate, how do we support each other, and how can our work be meaningful and help people with the needs that they have currently. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to Trelor. Thanks, Trelor.
Hi, Lindsay. Hi, everyone. My name is Trelor Bauer, and I am also in the experience development team with Lindsay at the museum. And just to second everything she said, the museum is certainly trying to expand our offerings that are done virtually, and we really want to meet the community where they're at the moment and help fill needs. And just one additional piece is thinking about the fun ways that art and science can interconnect in experiences for families that are filling the gaps at the moment and helping enrich lives for families as well. Do I need to pick somebody?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, please do. I think we have 3 left. How about Krista? Krista from DAVA is on the call.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Krista, Executive Director of Downtown Aurora Visual Arts, or DAVA. We're a community arts center for youth in the East Colfax corridor in the Aurora Cultural Arts District. MLK Junior Library, the Fox Theater, those are some of the institutions we're located near. We serve kids ages 3 through 18 in a series of programs, all free art education after school, out of school time. We reopened June 8th. So we are actually in our 3rd session of programming starting Monday. We serve about 75% of our students are immigrant and refugee, come from immigrant and refugee families. So we felt a really strong need to get back to serving our community, get kids back to hands-on learning and engaging on the issues that they're experiencing right now with the pandemic, social justice, etc. Our classes filled up in under 2 hours. Parents need their kids to be engaged in learning at this time. So it's been successful, and I'm happy to share.
Thank you so much. I think we only have, Barth, is that you?
Hey, JC.
Hey, brother, how you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you.
Great
Thanks
to see you.
for hosting us here. It's nice to see some familiar faces. I'll go real quick, okay? And then you can pass it on to anyone else that hasn't gone. But I know some of you have met you in the past. I work for Denver Public Schools. I'm the instructional curriculum specialist for visual arts. So I serve approximately 180 art teachers in DPS. That's across about 160 schools. And so collectively, we've got about 80,000 students. And this year, we've welcomed 20 new art teachers into DPS. New art teachers, veteran teachers from outside of DPS, but everyone's feeling like a new teacher this year. We've chosen to use Seesaw and Schoology for our digital learning platforms, Seesaw for elementary and Schoology for middle and high school. So that's been a major learning curve for everybody, and learning how those might work for remote learning. I'm also a parent, so I understand the challenges between these two worlds of, working full time and also trying to do the remote learning with your own kids. And so that's, it's going to be different than the springtime, that's for sure. But nevertheless challenging again.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Barth. It's great to have you on the call. I think Kim, have you really gone? I think Kim's left. And then we're...
No, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Kim Estes McCarty. I'm the Executive Director for Platform. We've been around about 18 years. We have 2 core programs. One is our artistic residency for professional artists from all different disciplines from all over the world. And our core program is called Art Lab, and it is a paid internship for high school students. We typically serve students from Title I high schools, focus mostly on Denver Public Schools, but also we serve kids from Jeffco, Adams County, and Arapahoe County. The internship Art Lab that we do is a 2 to 3 year internship for these high school students. We spend about 200 to 250 hours a year with each kid, with the main goals of being to make sure we use the arts to make sure they graduate from high school on time, prepare for post-secondary success, and then most importantly, become socially engaged in their communities to create positive change. Like Redline, we combine the arts with social justice practices. I am proud to say that over the last 12 years, we have a 97% high school graduation rate. And over the last 4 years, since we started tracking post-secondary activity, 94% of our kids that graduated went on to a post-secondary institution of some sort. Yeah, so that's what we do. And I'll talk more later about what's been going on with COVID.
Thank you so much. I see that Abby has joined us from Kuntz Miller. We're just doing a brief introduction. You got 60 seconds to tell us who you are and what you do.
Hi, everybody. Sorry I'm late. I just got out of a school assembly. I'm the arts director at Coons Miller Creative Arts Academy, which is a K-12 public arts magnet school in Southwest Denver. And I know Barth is on this call, so if he's already presented, then you probably already know that DPS is remote. And we just did a whole round of online school assemblies for every grade level, trying to orient kids to what the heck is happening. So that's where I just came from. Yeah, I've been working with Redline for years. It's nice to see some other representation here from other arts organizations that we've worked with. So I'm just glad to be here. JC, thanks for keeping this crew together.
Doing my best. Good to see you. And I think our executive director is on the call. Luis, are you there? Maybe, maybe not. Oh, you're there, but with the robot voice. You're there with the robot voice.
Here, I'm gonna do this in my car.
There you go. There you go.
Hear me?
Yes, we got you now. Lou, so do you want to just give a brief overview?
Sorry about that. I just wanted to say hello and thank you to all the epic teachers that are on the call already.
All right, Lou, I think you're cutting in and out. Thank you for being on the call.
And I'm a little concerned you guys can't. Can you hear me?
No, we can't.
How
so
is it at work? Am I better? No. Okay.
We'll come back to you, Lou. We'll come back to you. Thanks for being on the call. All right, guys. I want to jump right into our session here. And what we're going to do is I sent out some questions to you guys for you guys to consider. And if you have any other, kinds of questions or answers that you also want to throw into that, please feel free. I want to spend this next 30 minutes here discussing how each of you guys as organizations have been dealing with COVID-19. So far already, we've heard that we're doing virtual assemblies. I'd love to find out what kind of software you guys are using to do such a thing, and what kind of support systems are you providing for your students, if any, to be able to do such a thing. I know that high-speed internet is a huge concern going on right now, as well as having the actual physical technology to be able to engage with your youth. Things like, have your outcomes changed based on remote learning and social distancing? Some of you guys have reopened, like Dava. I remember when you guys did reopen, I was watching your Instagram feed and I was like, oh my God, they got kids in the building. But it was so great to see, because it's been so long. And so the questions that we have up here on the screen are the ones that I want to really consider. I'd love to just kind of jump into, if anybody really feels the bug and wants to start us off, that'd be fantastic. Does anybody thumbs up really feel like jumping us off and starting off? Okay, Kristen, thank you so much.
Yeah, I might, and I apologize. I might have to jump off this call because I have a baby. So I'm just reading through your questions just so I stay focused. But we did close down. We closed down March. It was the same day I had a child, so it was March 15th. And so I'm just coming off of maternity leave. So I actually did not get the pleasure to switch to remote learning. The same day we went into lockdown, I actually had a baby, so I was gone. And now I'm just starting back up for the first time. So we have not reopened. We are still doing remote learning as we are in DPS. We're our own charter school, but we are in DPS, and they, as of now, have said that they're going to reevaluate mid-October. So that's what the plan is for right now. So we are starting on Monday with remote learning. So some of the outcomes that have changed based on remote experiences and social distancing, I think as we can all speak to, our families are hurting. They're hurting not just, they're hurting financially, they're hurting with housing, people are getting evicted. So I have the opportunity, my school is super small. We only have about, well, now we're we have 165 kids, which is like crazy max capacity for my school. So what my school has done is hired more staff. So JC, I know you know Michael, he's been hired full-time, and we are now an art department. So that's very exciting.
Congrats.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I feel kind of bad for him. So the person who took over while I was on maternity leave got hired full-time. So we are now an art department, and I'm very excited about that. I'm sad for him because this is his first year ever teaching, and it has to be this in this format, but he is doing a great job. So I'm excited to have more art in the building, and I'm really thankful for my principal for recognizing that that is what we need in this time, is more creative outlets versus anything else, and the ability to have that. So I'm excited for that. We've also upped our enrollment because even in COVID, kids, we are an alternative Title I charter school. So 100% of our kids are coming to us from other high schools, or sometimes on their third or fourth try. Other high schools are still kicking kids out in COVID. So we just decided if we're online, we're just going to take them all. So we've upped our enrollment by a bazillion. I don't know the exact percentage, but if we were to go back into the building, it's going to be a real tight situation. But we just decided together, and the teachers had a say in this, that we were going to, it just doesn't seem fair to kick kids out during this time. So we're taking them all in. So we're starting remotely. We have a lot of new kids, really excited about that. We didn't get a lot of grants this year. In the past, we've gotten almost all of our grants. So as far as funding has been affected, grants have been non-existent. That's a kind of a scary situation. It hasn't really affected like teachers. No one's getting fired or anything, but it affected the fact that we couldn't send our kids home with really a lot of supplies. So, and that was really tough for us. So normally I would send kids home with like beautiful watercolors and all this stuff. And we did send them home with some things, but it was like, it's like a pencil, you know, and that really broke my heart. So a lot of that money had to go to tech. So, which is the most important thing right now. But, you know, I struggle with like, what are they going to actually use when it comes to art? So I'm having to get creative with my lesson planning. You know, we decided to split our school up into small cohorts. So each teacher at our school has about 15 kids to 16 kids max, where they are our children, they are our babies for the whole year. We are supposed to contact them every single day. And that has been a game changer. So, yeah, so that's been a game changer. I have 15 kids that I contact every single day on the weekend. And it's as quick as a text. It doesn't have to be this long drawn out thing. And yesterday we had computer pickup, and we had 80% of kids come and get their things, which is like, it just shows us that the communication's working. So we have those 15 kids outside of our classes, and then that is who we communicate with and make sure they're logging in, everything's okay. Now I understand that that's a luxury because we are so small and not everyone has that luxury, but that's kind of what we're working with right now, and I'm pretty excited for the new year.
Wow, thank you for that update. It's really shocking to hear that you know, you weren't able to, you know, even get supplies to your kids. I'm glad we're having this call because this is something that Redline's actually been focusing on all summer long. So we'll make sure that we get you guys some art supplies for, you know, the students that you're working with. Congratulations on getting an art department. For those of you guys that don't know, Ms. Chico was working, doing her art classes out of the cafeteria forever, you know, but doing some really great work. So congratulations. That's awesome. Wow, I'd love to hear next from Dava, actually, since you guys have been open for some time and you have, you know, maybe a little bit more, you know, experience with how to cope with all of this right now.
How to cope was, we've got to get back. That was, you know, we had a real intense staff meeting. We just said we've always been grassroots, community-based. The sooner we can get back to our kids. These are not kids that have computers at home. They don't have laptops. They don't have remote learning and online and internet and bandwidth. So it was really important for us once we saw the state, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment's guidelines published on Memorial Day for youth programs, sports, and activities. We took those and ran with it. We made sure that we were in compliance with every single one of those. And then our local health agency for us, because we're Aurora, is Tri-County Health. So that really informed us on local levels of what we needed to have posted, what we needed to actually physically have within our building to reopen, and then the state guidelines for how to actually work with youth. We set up a rotating schedule of 3 classes a day, 2 hours at a time. And we were able to run that 1 session in June, 1 session in July. We saw 100 kids in each session. I'm proud to say we ran those 3 to 4 weeks of classes. We had total success, no cases, no health issues, smiling kids, thrilled parents, buzzing creativity, masks on, of course. We did require masks. We had classrooms of 9 kids and 1 instructor to meet the 10-person limit. Luckily for those of you that know DAVA, typically the kind of spread out maze of a building we have is like the bane of my existence, but it works because we were able to have separate wings. Kids had separate restrooms, entrances, health screening stations, temperature taken, questions asked. Parents made sure that their kid was ready to go. Every single kid was registered, so that's a departure from our drop-in programming, which is how we best serve our community, because we have kids walking, parents working a couple jobs. Kids will often just come here because it's an art center, it's a youth center. So we really had to like text and find parents, get the kids registered, get those COVID waivers signed. We did waiver every single kid that participated, identifying, in case there was a case, and informing parents how we were going to handle that. So really, we put a ton of protocols in place. It was exciting but exhausting. I have an amazing team that is masked on and just really wants to get back to the kids. We had to do a couple other huge pivots, like bringing our annual summer film program, which is one of our most notable award-winning programs. We had to bring that back in-house because the Colorado Film School remains closed. So I was buying film equipment and contracting with guest artists who were willing to come teach and work with the kids, but we pulled it off. It was amazing. So we've been running on adrenaline, but I'll tell you, getting the kids back in here
Well, I think we're losing her. Any of you guys hear her? No, she's gone. Oh no, Krista. All right, I really, there's some really interesting stuff in there as well that I want to come back to. Hopefully she can, if she can still hear us, maybe exit the call and come back in. Oh, there you are.
Did you call on me? It's Lindsay. No. Sorry, my internet's really bad too.
Oh, that's okay. While you're here, maybe you can just hop in.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't, I kind of lost you guys for a minute.
It's okay.
And Trelor, I'll just invite you to unmute too, so you can chime in together with me. But yeah, I was thinking about what Krista was sharing, and it sounds really similar in some ways to what we did with our camps that we had this summer. So Trelor might know more about like the timing of this, but we were able to have summer camps before we officially opened the building. And that allowed us to, same thing, kind of like, give people a place to be and have some meaningful experiences with nature and science, and get out of the house. And so also with our crazy sprawling building, which oftentimes too is really frustrating, this was also a huge help so that we could have those pods of kids masked, socially distanced, and had our educators who were parts of those teams like be dedicated to each of those. So really, in the same way that it was like wonderful, I think also, it was challenging to figure out all the logistics of that, and, really paying attention to the protocols and finding guidance from the city was a huge piece of, I think, of kind of, organizing how we would do that. And luckily for us too, had a lot of success with it, got to see lots of kids, and didn't have any illnesses that we know of, which is wonderful as well. And, you know, we're lucky to have that connection to City Park as well. So there's this whole outdoor space that is available to us. And I think, you know, as we're all talking, you know, that might be something to be thinking about too, just in terms of a resource that, you know, we have kind of an indoor space that exists that's connected to the city park. And so I'm just going to throw that out there as a potential way that we might be able to, you know, partner or support and start some brainstorming around that. And then I also just wanted to mention something that we didn't talk about before, which is that right before we shut down, we have an initiative called No Walls, which is all about being outside the walls of the museum. And part of our No Walls initiative included creating some mobile experiences for people. So like things on wheels, for example. And one of these things was called the Curiosity Cruiser, or is called the Curiosity Cruiser. And we started to go out in January to fairs and festivals. And the idea behind it is that people, you know, we'd meet people where they already were choosing to be, which was like, you know, at the parks, or, you know, it's the Black Arts Festival, or it's, you know, Pride or whatever that's happening around town, or even going into neighborhoods that invite us, or libraries, for example. And what was on board, or what is on board the Curiosity Cruiser are things that you get to do that revolve around the idea of like our relationship to food and flavor science. And so we had, you know, supplies on board and experiences developed that people could interact with inside a very small space with food, which of course, you know, no longer feels like the right thing to do right now, of course. However, we still have this amazing vehicle, and there's things that happen on the exterior of the vehicle. So we're really thinking about how can we reassess, you know, and reuse some of the effort that we've put into that and repurpose it at this time. So, you know, I think, again, you know, for brainstorming purposes, like, it's on wheels, it can go anywhere. It's fun, it's colorful, it's exciting. It can go into a neighborhood. It's not too huge that it, you know, you need too much planning for it. So, so I just wanted to throw that out there too. And Trelor, if you would like to add anything.
Yeah, I think we have been trying to think really creatively about these assets we have. So like Lindsay said, the Curiosity Cruiser, for putting people inside of it, is a small space. For loading it with supplies and going into a neighborhood and distributing packs of art materials for the kiddos that live there, you know, that's something we could potentially repurpose it for. And again, we're really eager to explore ways that science and art can connect. So we could collaborate with one of the arts organizations, be out in a community.
Wow.
Take everything out with the cruiser. We've thought a lot about Wi-Fi access. You know, we heard about the school district in Austin that sent their school buses out into neighborhoods that lack internet connectivity. They outfitted the buses with Wi-Fi signals. So maybe there's something we want to do virtually, but we are going into a space where they just need a bump up with their internet service. We're just really open to the creative ways that, again, the assets we have can fill current needs and gaps for the community, and partners also in the community. However your services are disrupted, if there's a way that the museum can help fill that, and also explore the ways that we can be fulfilling our mission alongside of you in some really creative and fun ways, it would be great. We're really open to dialogue. I don't think I need the minute, JC.
Well, that's awesome. I might have a minute worth of questions. I love that. Lindsay and Trelor, thank you so much. This is incredible. Lindsay, I know we've been talking all summer about you know, this moving experience. And I guess my question is, at what cost would it be to an organization or a school to have the Curiosity Bus pull up with Wi-Fi and or supplies?
I think we would just talk about it. I mean, right now, I don't know, you know, we had a whole, you know, sort of pricing arrangement for the cruiser pre all of this. And I think, you know, that no longer applies. So I think we would just talk about it, and maybe there's just a way to like use it, because that's what we want to do, is use it. So yeah, let's figure that out and talk about it and figure it out.
Show of hands. Who would use the cruiser if it was available? Oh, here we go. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Awesome. I'm sorry. I think I cut somebody off as they were starting to talk.
Oh, I was just going to add, JC, that the museum has always welcomed students, organized youth groups into the building at no cost. So in a sense, our hard costs for those groups are underwritten by SCFD tax support and paid guests. Right alongside of that, we have a scholarship program. So for any paid program schools might want to do, schools that have a certain percentage of free and reduced lunch, the Title I's, would not be paying or would be having reduced rates for those paid experiences. So there may be a way that we apply the model of the scholarshipping and take the funds that would have been utilized this fall by school groups who are now not having field trips to the building, and explore ways that we can be creative with how we use that to help underwrite the cost out to these communities.
Wow. You just opened up a whole nother line of questioning for me. I'll ask one more before anybody else wants to jump in as well. But as far as lunch and food availability, with the museum being in the state that it's in right now and having the cafeteria, and I know sometimes providing lunches for school field trips and things, is that something that can pivot to DPS schools or Title I schools, especially in some way, shape, or form?
We're actually involved with the Eastside Unified Collective, and the project over there right now is trying to get some flash freezers into some of the schools. Maybe some of the DPS staff on the call will be aware of that. But that is one of the things we've talked about. So the differences in schools between whether they have a warming kitchen or a cooking kitchen, and where schools are just warming kitchens, they can't provide the richer nutritional meals. And so providing those schools these flash freezers through a grant program opens up the possibility of prepping the food in the cook kitchens and transferring them over to schools with warming. And so we have talked about, can the cruiser be a mechanism of doing some delivery of food, even packaged with DPS? Really early phases of conversations with that. And of course, it always feels sort of a step forward, a step back from DPS about, well, maybe we'll be reopening in October. Would we put the amount of effort in right now if kids can get back into their schools in October? Maybe not.
Wow.
That is part of what makes all of this really challenging.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. That is amazing information. Does anybody else have any other questions regarding this? No? Okay, thank you. Maybe we'll jump into Art Street, and maybe Amy and Chelsea can unmute and kind of tag team this and kind of talk about the same kind of ideas that we've been talking about here.
For sure, thanks. That sounds super cool, by the way. Love it, because what we see is definitely bringing it out to the youth. So we are housed in La Alma, Mariposa District, and what we did, we closed down on March 13th. We, as Rigo said, we work with Colorado High School Charter, so those classes that we were doing for credit, we went to remote learning. I'll let Chelsea talk about that here in a minute too, those challenges, because she's really our tech person. And we then also did EPIC with Redline, which was fantastic. Again, it all worked, and we ended up, I think you said on this, when I read this, JC, like we'd said, well, we had 20, we hope for 10 to 12 solid, and we ended up with 20 solid at the end. So we really, but just like previously said, it's about reaching out every single day. And so moving from that, then we have to follow, because we're housed in Denver Housing Authority properties. So we have to follow whatever their protocols are. And so we are not able to open even if we wanted to. We can see people individually, right? But what we decided to do, and we also follow DPS. So remotely this summer, then we worked with 23 interns who were paid around a project that was funded by Arts and Society and 2A, and did some amazing work. It was 5 weeks, seeing them every day. We used Zoom and Google Classroom, and I'll let Chelsea talk about those details. And then we did some small group, 9 youth outside. So again, talking about being out in the park or whatever, we worked on a public art piece in the Sun Valley neighborhood, and again, in coordination with our AIS grant and a PSU Here grant. And so we needed to complete that, and we were like, okay, if we work outside, and how do we, distance from there? I'm curious with Dava, I'd love to ask you, Krista, one thing so we all wore masks. With teens, I mean, I literally, that's what I do, is I lecture, right? I'm like the mom, grandma, and it's like, so I basically would be like, I'm the old person here, you will be fine, but do you want me to die? That's kind of how I wouldn't say that, but you know what I'm saying. So, because what they would do is they would be down, they wouldn't be wearing them right. It was constant of that. And, and some, and they were respectful and everything else, but it's just, they're like, no, this isn't anything. And we were outside and we were spread out, and some were siblings. So already we're in the household. So I wasn't as concerned, but it was still, it's really hard to do art in a group. And we'll be doing another mural in Sun Valley in September with another small group. But we are moving into, for fall, again, partnering with Colorado School Charter, both the Osage and GES campus, and we'll be doing culinary and arts remotely with them. And we'll be working with some interns from DPS remotely as well. And then we're doing some other projects through our fee-for-service and stipend-based earnings. And
Amy,
then,
if I can ask a quick question, you're going to do culinary remotely?
we are.
Can you kind of just real quick kind of tell us how that's going to work?
Yeah, so we did this again. This is with Colorado High School Charter. And so in the spring, what we did, well, I drove the food around every week, the ingredients. That is really hard to do. Delivery is hard when you have a group, because they all live all over, especially with Colorado School Charter and some of the other charter schools. And then Mary, the chef, would give recipes, and they would take photos and send. And so it started with, what equipment do you have in your kitchen and those kind of things. For fall, we'll be live, and we'll be using Google Classroom and Google Meetups. And so she'll actually be doing demonstrations. Wow. And again, the supplies will be delivered, ingredients, but it'll have to be based around what do they have in their kitchen. We'll be doing Serve Safe online too. So it will be very challenging. We delivered a lot of art supplies. So like others, that's a huge expense. And one of the things we want to do for fall, our theme is Art of Protest, and we'll be doing some printmaking, but we were just having to provide those tools, which normally you can share and have less of, and you may not get them back. So our expenses for our supplies are significantly higher, and that's been a challenge for sure. But I'm going to turn it to Chelsea to talk maybe specifically about the challenges with the tech, or what we're using, and also maybe some of those questions around, the specific projects. But we've amazingly done, and again, I'm crediting Chelsea for all of this, had some amazing outcomes with our youth and the arts. And we had a lot of guests. The good thing about tech, we had a lot of really cool artists and presenters who got to come in, from an upcycled artist in LA, who was amazing, to, Benjamin, who to talk about eco-racism, so super cool things. So Chelsea, take it away.
So I think we definitely, after the spring, I did a lot of troubleshooting in the spring that is really nice, because it carried into our summer, which we were able to really figure everything out. And then, so hopefully this fall will be, I don't think I'll try and throw my computer against the wall this fall. This spring, my computer was in serious jeopardy. But I think the hardest thing about the tech is, luckily this summer, all of our students had DPS computers, but they had admin access. So they didn't have blocked websites. They didn't have, they could download software. They could do all of this stuff that was so challenging in the spring. And I know will again be really, really challenging this fall, which is really too bad. I mean, I understand why they block all the computers, but it's definitely, you know, not being able, like sending them in a website and being like, fingers crossed, you guys can actually access this, can be tough. So I think that when you're thinking about your curriculum or whatever, even though you may not be directly connected to DPS, it's most likely that students will have a DPS computer. So trying to connect with a DPS person that can unblock YouTube videos that you want your students to watch, or having a DPS contact that can, you know, sometimes they can put websites on safe user lists or like, you know, safe lists and stuff like that. That can be really helpful, and just being aware of that, because I wouldn't have known that as a separate arts organization until working with all the DPS computers. So that I think was a challenge. There are some workarounds, like you can put content like screenshots of websites into Google Slides and then they can see that. But if it's an interactive website or anything like that, you know, you just kind of have to know that sometimes they just aren't going to be able to access it.
Wow. That's a huge barrier. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Barth, do you have anything to kind of add into that at the same time?
Well, I don't know if I have anything to necessarily contribute on that. I imagine that some of you might have questions about how DPS is approaching the remote learning this fall. But I'm going to encourage us, if we have arts organizations that are looking to support schools, that maybe you connect with me and I can get you patched up with a specific school. But I've also had folks come in and saying, oh, we have resources or materials even for schools. I've directed them to the DPS Foundation, who has been doing a lot of work to help make sure the resources coming in from outside partners are being distributed in equitable ways to schools. So, yeah, I mean, if you have a specific question about DPS, I'll do the best I can, but I'm not a spokesperson for DPS by any means.
Roger that. Yeah. Thanks, Barth. Appreciate it.
I'll just add into that with you, Chelsea, too. The other thing that we were able to work with DPS for this group of 23 was for them all to have Adobe Creative Suite on there. And when you're working with teens, and especially remotely, we want to try and work digitally and improve their skills in Photoshop and Illustrator, for example, which we do when we have them on site. And for our other class, you know, for our classes this fall, we're not going to be able to have that, and that's a huge barrier. So these youth who we're serving are already, again, it's the hardware, it's the software, and it's the connection. So again, just like here, we see not everyone has strong signals, and even though DPS worked really hard to try and make sure they got Wi-Fi or a hotspot if they needed, we still had a lot of that as well. So tech's huge, or just knowing how to use it within the home and having someone one-on-one really work with them. And we had some really good support with DPS to help us with that, as well as obviously Chelsea troubleshooting a ton. So I just wanted to pop in there to think about software as well as access to the internet.
Yes. Wow, thank you. Let's jump into, I'd love to hear from Jen in the same vein. And then after that, I'd love to go to some of our DPS teachers with Abigail and Emily as well.
Yeah, thanks. It's really great hearing what everyone is doing. Our model is kind of different than what's been described so far, because we don't have a place where we enroll youth directly. We work with youth through schools and through teachers. So the first thing we did was we went to Bo at DPS and said, hey, everyone, you know, in March, this is a big deal. Teachers are all transitioning. What do you need? How can we support? And we went to our partners at the Department of Education. We're part of this think tank group, which is arts coordinators and education leaders from all over the state. And so using that feedback, we launched a digital platform called Think 360 Teaching Artist TV. It's on our website and our YouTube channel. And it's 27 artist videos in all different art forms. And the materials, I mean, there's like painting with turmeric. Like it's, you know, it's a very accessible, a lot of it is like collage or like used items from nature. We charge the artist with making it as accessible. I'll put the website in the chat momentarily. That was kind of our first, like, okay, this is how we're going to support teachers. And at the same time, we were like, how do we, like, can we get art kits to kids and distribute it through the food distribution systems? And like, it was just, because we have that layer in between us and the kids, we weren't able to get that, but we were still very aware that that was a need and that not all kids were getting online. And as a parent myself, I was trying to manage online learning with the 2 kids and know about all the challenges. So anyway, a lot of our teacher partners since then, well, sorry, I'll back up a second. The other thing that we did was we have something called Creative Learning Labs for teachers. And normally we had 20 people a day. It's in person at our place in the Thomas Bean. We had like 300 teachers signing up for these. We did a workshop with Andrea Moore from the Wayfaring Band about, called the Wellness Workshop. She's now doing that workshop on a customized basis for school districts as they're bringing their teachers back together to start school. We really made it, Donnie Betts did a social justice through storytelling workshop. Andrea Moore did social justice through music and lyric writing, songwriting. I'm sorry, Andrea Sali. So we did, so we saw this huge demand and lots of teachers from all over the state coming to our online trainings. And just like a real, we all saw this in the spring, a real need for people to create community and just sort of say, okay, this is weird. We're all in this weirdness together. It's really stressful, challenging in all kinds of ways. So as we've been talking to teachers since then, one of the things that's come up is that not only is there, here I just had this article kind of ready to paste, there's a loss of engagement all around, but of the kids who do have access, the access for arts and humanities is like 35% or 43% versus kids who are like doing their math homework, which is, closer to 80%. So a lot of our teachers had that experience, which was described earlier in this call of, kids aren't showing up for my class, or the focus is on the core, the so-called core subjects and not the specials, I don't like calling it enrichment because I do think the arts are core. But anyway, the statewide, we also started to hear from teachers like, oh, I'm getting my assignment for next year and I'm not teaching art anymore. I'm getting moved down to kindergarten. Or we're really worried about how state budget cuts and district cuts are going to affect the arts. And having spent 20 years of my career in California and 10 of those as an arts coordinator for a school district, I lived through that already. And I don't want it to happen here. So I'm working with a statewide group of arts educators, and I invite anyone's participation and support with this. This fall, we're going to launch a student-driven arts advocacy campaign, which is about students telling their stories of what they get out of arts in school and why those art teachers matter and why we need to keep those FTEs in all the art forms. So I'll put my contact in the chat if anyone wants to join me in that. We're sort of like giving the teachers a little break on this. Cool, because school's starting, but then we're gonna pick it back up again probably in September. So we also, are doing synchronous and asynchronous teaching with our teaching artists. Like we've been working with them all summer on getting them ready to have the technical expertise and kind of the pedagogical tricks to work in that way. And we also have been doing a training with CASTLE, which is a social emotional learning group. They did something on social justice and racial equity, and it is a framework called transformative SEL. So you've heard about social emotional learning probably. This is about like really looking at SEL and saying, this is not a behavior management system. This is about authentic relationships that make space for racial healing. So transformative SEL is what they're calling it. And we are hopefully going to do a symposium this fall for teachers, and we can open it up to other folks too about how transformative SEL can work in the arts classroom. So we've been doing, like, the staff all went to that training all summer long. And then at the same time we did a lunch and learn series with our teaching artists. I will wrap this up very quickly so that they can start to delve into this, because it really does need to be, it's not like you go to a seminar and you're like, oh, I get it. Transformative SEL, you really need to workshop it and be given the time to examine, this is a lesson I normally do with kids. How would this work with transform? How do I modify it? Or is this even a lesson I should be doing with kids right now? So anyway, other than that, our older adult programs are blowing up. We've been doing like socially distanced performances and art box drop-offs for these like very small groups of older adults, and a ton of online learning. We're about to do that in rural Colorado too. The teens at the Boys and Girls Club are going to teach the older adults like TikTok and I don't know, other things that are like too cool for an old person like me.
Wow, thank you so much, Jen. Thank you. And is there any other follow-up or questions about that? That was a lot and amazing information.
I think what you're doing is really very cool.
Thanks. Jen, sorry to ask you to repeat this, but you're with Think 360, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just confirming that. Thank you.
Here, I'll put the link to Teaching Artist TV. Let me double check that's the right link.
And is that just general access? Anybody can just click and
have
access to that?
We made all of our programs free
Excellent.
During COVID too.
Excellent. And then that transformative SEL training workshop, would that also be a free event, or would it be something that,
yes.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be like, we're thinking of the modules as some of them are like pre-recorded talks, and then some of them are more like small group, discussions.
Wow. Exceptional. Thank you. Thank you so much. With the remaining time that we have left, this was a lot, and I knew it was going to be a lot. I'd like to also hear from some of our other DPS partners in Rigo and Emily and Abby. Emily, would you like to talk a little bit about your experience so far? Especially with preparing for a class that no one thought that you were going to be teaching.
Sure. So I think in the springtime, one of our challenges is we had multiple platforms that teachers were using. And so one of the hurdles was making parents aware of where that information was coming from. So that could have been why they didn't really get where the arts instruction was happening. Now that we're all using Seesaw, hopefully that is improved. I think another challenge though with getting people to access the arts curriculum is because we're asynchronous. And so from what I'm hearing from parents is they really want it to be something that kids will do on their own. And I'm just trying to figure out how to make those pre-recorded videos and tasks and prompts really engaging. Some of the things that I loved last year were my artist collaboration with Redline Gallery, creating those art kits. I had high participation relatively with that. And I would love to continue some of those community projects. Another thing we're going to do this year is I'm going to be a part of everybody's live classroom in the morning, not necessarily for instruction, but during the morning meeting just to pop in, and we'll kind of see how that goes. But I think that reminder that I exist and that they should participate and use their voice. So that's kind of where I'm standing right now. I'm just trying to meet families where they are and figure out how to help them, how to get them connected.
Art supplies. Do you have a heavy need for access for art supplies to get to your students, or do you feel like you're stocked up?
No, I haven't been able to order any. My administrator wants to kind of freeze on that in case we will go back. She wants to save the budget for that. So I got the no on art kits, but I still kind of in my mind think that I'll do them somehow. I just haven't figured out how to do them.
Okay, let's talk later.
Yeah.
Cool. Abby, you like to jump in?
All right. I have a bunch of notes. I'm not sure how you want me to.
Just do it. Jump on in. Let's go. Let's go.
So the art kits that's a big deal, right? So the arts team has been assembling 963 of these things to give out to every single student in our K-12 school. Distribution is going to probably be a nightmare. But that's what we've discovered so far with like technology distribution is like information access to our families is really inequitable. I'm in charge of all of our social media and website updates. So I'm posting stuff constantly, but still parents are not able to really access information. I had a teacher tell me this morning that she was using the translation services to speak to a mom who didn't even know that school was starting on Monday. She thought maybe kids were having to go back to the building. Like it's really hard to make sure that everybody is up to date with stuff right now. Funding, luckily, you might know this already just from the DPS budget. They've managed to make the budget that was set in February, even though there's state shortages, it's not affecting schools for this year. After this year, all bets are off. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm worried about that. The conversation about social emotional learning is a really huge topic right now at the district level. They also are supporting the transformative social emotional learning approach. So this idea that it needs to be more of a social justice lens for this kind of work that we're doing, and really analyzing the system to make this more culturally relevant and less of a way to control student behavior, but more of a way for kids to feel supported in expressing their emotions. So this is something that I've really gotten on the bandwagon about. It's really a passion of mine. So I'm all of a sudden the SEL coordinator at my school. I did I did like trainings morning, noon, and night for our staff during Green Week to try to get them comfortable with the practice, like actually workshopping things that they could do with students to be able to like build up their toolkit for rolling this out, because the expectation is that not only are teachers doing SEL practices in their classrooms, which are going to be 45 minutes of synchronous live teaching and then 45 minutes of asynchronous workshop time, 4 classes a day for students, but also that we have 30 minutes a day. This is a DPS expectation that all schools have 30 minutes a day of devoted SEL time. So we have created a brand new system for morning advisory periods, which we never had before. So it's small teacher-student ratio, 30-minute starting the day with mindfulness practices and relationship building and, the whole gamut of SEL. So that's really exciting for me. I'm also got some lawn work happening. I'm also curious to brainstorm how, since I'm of my responsibilities is to support teachers in doing that practice, how I can marry social emotional learning and arts integration. I think that is going to be a really interesting thing to investigate this year for our students. We've also doubled down as a district, but also as at our school, on our efforts with culturally relevant education and supporting the Black Excellence Plan that DPS has rolled out. So what that's going to look like is a lot more like one-to-one communication in reaching out to develop deeper relationships with students, and having trackers to track engagement and grades, and if they're on track to graduate, and what disparities there might be, and just trying to be put more of a concerted effort on that. Even though we only have 37 Black students in our school at the secondary level, we're primarily a Mexican American community in Southwest Denver. I'm also teaching a class, and my personal focus has always been for my curriculum the social justice and art, how to blend those things and turning artists into activists, and teaching our high schoolers this year. I'm teaching 10th grade how to use their art to communicate messages about their values and issues that are important to them. So working with Redline and the EPIC program has always been a huge part of that. And I'm really excited to figure out how that's going to look this year. We got kind of cut off last spring with our new mural effort about biodiversity. And I'm really excited to see if we can get that back going if we do like a hybrid situation for second quarter. We'll see.
Absolutely, absolutely.
One other thing that I'm really determined to ensure doesn't change this year, because so much has changed, and one of the things that our kids love at our secondary level is all the performance opportunities. Roger that, JC. And we are going to make sure that kids still have performance opportunities. So we are having like an after school theater production all online, and a dance concert all online. So our performers can continue to collaborate and put together productions and show that off to our community. So trying to make sure that kids can still experience those things and stay engaged in the performing arts that they love, even if it's online. So we're really having to get resourceful and get creative about how to do that. But we're committed to making sure that kids don't lose that, because so much of our other arts programming has been interrupted by the kind of safety guardrails that DPS was putting out for if we were to go into a hybrid situation, which has kind of ruined our leveled programming for the arts. So because there's cohorts now of like all grades need to stay together. So for example, 9th grade class could have beginning, intermediate, and advanced musicians in it, as opposed to being leveled by your skill. So that's really frustrating for our teachers who have been building programming based on level, regardless of student grade. Now it's like all the levels together in one grade. So we're really having to like level the playing field for students, try to differentiate as much as possible. But yeah, programming is a challenge for us this year. I think that's all I have time for, even though I have other stuff I could say. But I am excited to talk to Jen more about what you're doing and collaborate with your TSEL and arts programming. So stay in touch, please.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Abby. Rigo, you've got the last 5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up. But we'll also plan for our next call. I think that there's been a lot of great information here that I can't wait to share with everyone, and then get into some real brainstorming to put together some best practices. Thank you so much, everybody. Rigo, I'm gonna let you take it from here.
Yeah, thank you. So I think, in terms of, we made the decision to end in-person classes on March 13th. So we've been, March 16th and 17th, we left as open days for students to come in and turn in work, because we did have to end our quarter early. We're on a quarter system at Colorado High School Charter, so that week should have been finals week and things like that. So the kids were able to come in and turn in work. And then we took an extended spring break, 3 weeks, and then we went remote in April. And I think in terms of our arts programming, our partners have been great. I mean, we really haven't had to, you know, Chelsea and Amy have talked about some of the work that they've done, and that was just some of the work that they've done. They have done a lot and bent over backwards for our kids to make sure that they still have access to arts programming. We also have a partnership with Youth on Record, and they've continued to do classes online. So, you know, we haven't had to, and going into this quarter, we've been able to maintain those partnerships, which has been great. So we'll be offering through online again courses, elective courses that are focusing on the arts, which I think is great. I do recognize how lucky we are to have such great partners, and I think coming out of, you know, we've talked a little bit about funding. Coming out of when this first happened, Q4, you know, working at a school, our funding's pretty much locked in by then. You know, we've gone through October count and all that, so you know, the funding was a concern for the future, and now here we are in that future. And so, you know, now it's a whole different ballgame of where things are a lot, I guess they're a little shakier, a little more scary. But we've still been able to hold on to those partnerships and to some key other ones as well. I think being a Title I school, we're well aware of the fact that some of our students get some of their needs met through us, some of their essentials. And one of the things we've been able to do is continue to provide our food bank. So every Thursday, we would have a food bank in one of the classrooms in which students after school would come by and be able to just grab whatever they needed for themselves or their families. And that partner has been great, and they've started delivering. So every Tuesday, the families that have signed up for it get a food delivery to last them through the week. So that just has been huge. And we've also been communicating. Every staff member has had a group of kids that they're responsible for communicating with regularly. And anytime we have any needs that come up, we, you know, our advocates or whoever it may be that has a relationship with the students, you know, they jump into action to address whatever those needs may be, which has been, you know, it's unfortunate, some of the issues that our students and families have faced through these times, but it is great that, you know, we have staff that are willing to go and help address or provide resources or even just lend an ear, whatever it is that we need to do for our students. In terms of our, you know, I mentioned how funding's a little shakier, but we are still going online for at least Q1 through October. And so we were working to try and switch to Schoology, but they were overloaded and they couldn't onboard our entire staff in time. And we really didn't want to start the school year trying to figure out what we were doing while trying to get the kids to figure it out as well. And so we've elected to hold off on the switch to Schoology. So we'll be doing Google Classroom and Google Meets. We worked with our tech team to be able to customize Google Meets a little bit so that we can get some of the breakout room features that Zoom provides available to us. So that's been great. We also have Canvas that some of our kids will be using for the college classes. Metro will be providing a class to our students online, which will be a great opportunity for them. And that's something that we had already planned for before all this happened. And so we're fortunate that we have professors that are willing to do it online. So our outcomes are still the same. We're still trying to provide that robust programming for all of our students while understanding that it's going to be different and it's going to be more difficult to maybe have the kids connect. Obviously, for some reasons, you know, they have to work or internet access, but we're working to get all of our kids Chromebooks and hotspots if they need them. But also just making sure that we're providing robust programming that it's going to be tough to engage kids in an online format. It's tough for anybody to connect just through computer screens, I feel. And so making sure that we have programming that is engaging so that we can help alleviate some of that pressure, sort of some of that responsibility that often unfairly falls on a student to engage themselves with what they're having to learn. So that would be, thank you. So that would be some of the things that we're doing moving forward. We've also created a homeroom. We've had homeroom always, but that'll be our first class now instead of our second one, so that every day students are reporting with the same teacher. That teacher knows we're setting it up so that they're learning life skills, they're doing social emotional stuff, financial. It's really trying to teach them the skills that will help them become positive citizens. We want to focus on building up our students as people. and not just as students. And so using that space to create a safe space for our students, having that contact person every morning that they can say, I'm having trouble with this, I need help with this, and that homeroom teacher will have the resources, and we all know that that's happening in that space, and that's all hands on deck. So it's a teacher plus a support staff member, so that the students are seeing the same faces every morning, and trying to provide that consistency and that support.
Wow, Rigo, thank you so much. I have a thousand more questions, too, seeing as how your particular position as concurrent enrollment is concerned. Like, I can only imagine how difficult that has to be in navigating through both of those worlds, and also trying to find, relevant programs and classes that are going to be able to translate well. Like, I'm assuming that's a nightmare right now.
Yeah, it's been a challenge. I think some of our kids' post-secondary plans have been thrown off. For instance, I had one student who was slated for Ascent. He was doing everything he needed to do, but with the pause, his classes got delayed, so he wasn't able to earn enough credits to qualify for Ascent. And then we were worried about how he was going to pay for it. And then Emily Griffith just up and canceled this program because it wasn't feasible to keep it going. So now he's taking this 14-month break that was not at all anticipated if he wants to continue. And they've canceled a few other programs. They're struggling over there. And so that's getting, and a lot of those kids are looking for a hands-on experience. How can you teach welding through online?
Right.
So that I would say that's the biggest challenge of this position is how, some of these programs are tailored to those kids who want that hands-on learning, and we cannot provide that right now. So how do we keep them engaged, not only with school in general, but engaged in thinking about their futures and still keep maintaining that motivation through all of this to say what I was doing was worth it. Because as we all know, a lot of times it's easy to fall into those traps of the easy way out, which might be the bad way, which is generally the bad way out.
The bad way, yeah. Roger that. I may have an option for you for welding. So, well, I'll talk to you offline about that. Thank you. I didn't. Thanks. I didn't set aside time for Redline to be able to report out, because I put that in the document that I shared with everyone. So the rest of the pages here that are in that doc that I shared really outline what Redline has been doing, and I really kind of broke down our Reach Studio as well in here if you guys are interested. The last page that I had here was really what I want to look forward to for our next call, which I think is amazing as to what happened here. I think we've created a pretty solid baseline, and everyone understands kind of where our organizations are in this moment, as far as like need for supplies, need for high-speed internet, need for access to artists, need for all kinds of other things. And some of our providers here as well have said, look, I might have access to said such things. I think that it's amazing having Lindsay on the call too, and being able to share such an amazing resource that I think that we can all benefit from as well. I want to shout out Barth for also being on the call as well. And hopefully it's okay for anyone on this call to be able to reach out to you, Barth, through email, since you're in the thread, about any of those other specific questions. This last page here is something that I want us to look at as I compile all of this information and then get it back out to you guys by next week. What are some best practices that we can all adopt? My number one question still is, like, what kind of software is everyone using? So I'm going to create a Google Doc that'll have a pretty easy breakdown for putting in what software you're using for what at which time. I'm sure you guys are using multiple things at once. Like for ArtStreet, I think it's amazing that you were able to get the Adobe Creative Suite for your students. It's so essential. And I know that Chelsea must have been overjoyed to have access to that. We're in the same boat, as we've got some young people that are more advanced for some of the, the basic, graphic design, editing software programs. So those are the kind of things that I'd like to know more about. I've heard Seesaw as being a resource that's being used. I want to create a solid database of what we're using and how we all can adopt those things if they can work for the communities that we are serving. And in that too, and the rest of this last page here, is kind of like a best practices list for how to work with youth in organizations that actually have in-person services right now. So expanded considerations on planning and preparing schools, updated considerations on ventilation. That's something that I'm struggling with right now for our Reach studio, as our community studio does not have any ventilation back there. And I'm going to have at-risk populations working once it gets cooler. Considerations on food service. We heard some things that could be really amazing for networking for all of us. So without spending too much more time, I wanted to have another like kind of open session, but we're already at time. I'm going to send out another doodle poll for another conversation. Maybe we do this once every other week. Maybe we do this once a month, whatever your schedule looks like and however you think this could be helpful to you. That's what we want to do. I'd like this to be a working group. It can also expand as well. I'd love to pull in more partners like Youth on Record to hear more about what they're doing. I had invited Museo to this conversation as well. I'd like to have their perspective as to what they're doing in their community. And so I really appreciate everyone being on this call and everything they had to offer. If there's any final thoughts from anyone, I'd like for you guys to have this opportunity to share now. But other than that, be on the lookout for an email coming in the next couple of days with a document for you guys to fill in some info. And then by next Friday, you'll have a full breakdown of this conversation, including what people have said they have access to and what people have said that they need access to. So we're really going to work here on supporting one another because that's really all we've got. And a lot of us work with the same youth platform. We see a lot of your kids over in our space and vice versa. And so we really want to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to provide the best support that we can for the communities that we reach. So with that, if anybody else has any other final thoughts, that's cool. If not, I'll take the thumbs up and let you guys get to your next Zoom call. Mine's in 10 minutes. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Great. Fantastic. All right, thanks guys. For those of you guys that like actually having access to Zoom calls too, I will post this in our G Drive so that if you want to just go back and take a look at your own smiling faces, that you guys can do that as well. But other than that, thank you so much. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay out of the smoke. And I'll talk to you guys hopefully in the next couple of days next week. All right, and special bye-bye to thanks to everybody that's got babies too. Thank you for taking time. Mine's inside crying. I gotta go in real quick.
Rigo, yay!
Yay, Rigo!
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye now.